Abyssal love, the prince's vow. A prince of the land and a prince of the sea set sail on a journey where hearts lead the way. Bound by a vow deeper than the tides, their love becomes the light that guides them through every storm. Chapter 3. The Cycle of Fate. The radiant light of the Ocean Guardian's sword shines like a bridge across time and space, illuminating the kingdoms of land and sea. It unites their dreams and hopes, bringing forth a prosperous future and endless peace. 20 years later, the night was as it had always been, timeless and eternal. Waves lapped against the shores of the kingdom of Vandermeer, whispering the stories of bygone eras, songs of kings and promises carried by the ceaseless breath of the sea. Two figures stood upon the silver sands, their shadows stretching long beneath the moonlight, intertwining like threads of destiny woven long ago. Elias Vandermeer, now the king of Vandermeer, stood clad in a robe of deep blue, the color of twilight just before dawn. A golden crown rested upon his blonde hair, and though the years had passed, time had not diminished his handsomeness. Rather, it had bestowed upon him a steadier, more commanding grace. He stood bathed in the moon's soft glow, his gaze tender as it fell upon the man before him, Kyle, Thalassia, the king of Thalassia. Still breathtakingly beautiful, Kyle's long, deep blue hair flowed with the night breeze, and his sapphire eyes mirrored the endless sky above, filled with mysteries unfathomed. The shimmering fishtail of his youth was gone, replaced by a pair of long, graceful legs, an ability granted by his mastery over the ocean's power, allowing him to walk upon the land for brief, precious hours. 20. Years had passed since the night fate first bound them together, and yet, through all those years, their promise, like the tides, had never once been broken. Elias smiled, raising the goblet in his hand. "We meet again, Kyle." Kyle lifted his own goblet, touching it lightly to Elias. "Yes, just like we have, every month for 20 years. They sat together upon the rocky shoreline, where the cool sea breeze kissed their faces, and the steady sigh of the waves wove a lullaby against the stones. In the distance, at the heart of the island, stood the Ocean Guardian's sword embedded within its stone pedestal. Its silver-blue light pulsed faintly, as if breathing in rhythm with the living sea. The legend of the Ocean Guardian's sword had long since spread across both land and sea, a sacred gift, a beacon of unity. It was Kale's offering to Elias, a sword infused with the boundless power of the ocean. The blade undulated like the restless waves, a silver-blue radiance dancing along its surface, as if the very soul of the sea surged within. Prince Kael had offered his soul pearl to the forging, merging its purity with the might of the deep, rendering the blade impervious to any darkness. The hilt, forged from an ancient sacred stone, gleamed with a subtle, solemn brilliance. It carried within it the strength of the land, gifted by Elias, who had contributed the heirloom stone passed down through generations of Vandermeer kings, imbuing the weapon with the scorching fire of the sun and the enduring strength of the earth. The Ocean Guardian sword bore the essence of sun and moon, of earth and sea. More than a mere weapon, it stood as a sentinel, safeguarding the fragile boundary between the kingdoms of land and ocean. At dawn and dusk, the blade would glow with a soft luminescence, mirroring the eternal cycle of the sun and the moon, symbolizing the delicate balance that bound their two worlds. To the people of the sea, the sword was more than a relic. It was a beacon. Beneath its glow, they could shed their tails and walk upon the land as men and women, if only for a time. Yet the blade possessed a sacred trust. Only Elias and Kale, whose bloodlines now intertwined with both land and ocean, could draw it from its resting place. For this reason, Elias had stationed his most elite soldiers around the pedestal, guardians against ambition and greed. Though the sword stood silent and alone, it radiated an unseen power, a force of protection, born from the unbreakable bond between two kings. It was a covenant, a promise, an eternal testament. You still remember the night we first met here, don't you? Elias asked suddenly, his voice brushed with nostalgia. Kyle turned slightly, watching him with a smile touched by 1,000 memories. Of course. He lifted his gaze to the heavens, where the moon cast its gentle light, and for a heartbeat, it was as if time itself had never moved. Back then, Kyle murmured, you were just a young prince setting out on your first voyage. And now, Elias said, his voice low and warm, you are the king of the sea. Their eyes met, and in that quiet meeting, the world around them melted away, leaving only the whisper of waves and the silent, sacred understanding that had grown between them. After a long pause, Kyle spoke again, his voice softer still. Elias, do you think we are trapped in a cycle of fate? Elias chuckled, a sound rich with affection and a hint of exasperation. If this is fate's cycle, he said, then I would gladly live it again and again. Kyle laughed lowly, a sound like a distant tide, his eyes flickering with something deeper, something unspoken. He raised his goblet once more and sipped the moonlit wine in silence. Not far from them, hidden by the shade of the trees, two young figures approached, their footsteps light upon the sands. Adrian Vandermeer, son of Elias, stood at 17, a mirror of his father's youth, with golden hair like captured sunlight and sapphire, eyes like clear summer skies. His figure was tall, his face strikingly handsome, carved by nobility and the promise of strength. Beside him walked Lucian Thalasia, son of Kyle, born under the blessing of the sea itself. At 17 as well, Lucian's presence was something ethereal, elusive, like a dream glimpsed through mist. Bathed in the ocean guardian's sword's faint glow, his usual fishtail had been transformed into slender legs, allowing him to stand upon the earth. Lucian's long white hair whispered against his shoulders, and his oceanic eyes shone with a depth that seemed to hold the memories of ancient tides. His beauty was otherworldly, more enigmatic even than his father's, a rare treasure sculpted by the ceaseless breath of the sea. From the shadows, Adrian whispered, they meet every month? Lucian nodded, his voice no louder than the wind among the leaves. Yes. Long before I was born, they have always kept this promise. Adrian arched a brow, a smile tugging at the corner of his lips. Then, what about us? Lucian smiled faintly. Lowering his voice, we could do the same. Their eyes met in the darkness, and there, beneath the timeless gaze of the moon, the cycle of fate began anew, a new story, waiting to be written. As the waves whisper their secrets to the shore, new destinies awaken in the shadow of the past.